Caucus states made up only 1.1 million, 3% of all Democratic votes, but selected 626, 15% of the delegates. Caucuses in the 2008 Democratic primary were filled with violations of party rules and, more importantly, were fraught with malicious practices unacceptable in any election in any country. They violated the core democratic principle of one person, one vote, so gaming the system produced a huge impact. Rather than investigate and penalize this otherwise illegal activity, the Democratic Party rewarded it by allowing it to stand.
And they didn't want to listen. They booed me, the whole 3,000 people at the convention. They booed me. And I got death threats because my address was in the video from Obama supporters and people calling me whore and skank.
Not only a party would allow this, but that our own citizens would perpetrate this against one another when we have stood firm for everyone's ability to vote and that every vote would count.
I've always been believing the system, and this is the first time I feel like I've been betrayed of that trust.
It is my opinion that right now party business is trumping the freedom of the vote.
I believe in democratic principles. My question is, does my party believe in democratic principles?
They say they want everybody in this party to unite and get behind one person, and you're cutting up each other on the floor.
Some people saw outright cheating. Other people just saw strong-arm tactics. I saw fraud.
You're supposed to sign your names on these sheets, and the sheets are supposed to be controlled and passed out, and this is how you kind of maintain order. None of that was done. The sheets are just flying all over the place. You could put in your own names, you could add your own sheets or anything, so it was just filled with fraud.
At the time, I didn't realize people probably signed up for their friends. I would have challenged that they were physically there.
They were just changing it back and forth. It's like nobody seems to complain.
Obama supporters going back through the crowd telling the people that were on the other side of the table and the people outside that they could go home, that they had been counted, but that they could go home. And I turned to Mom and Alice, I said, don't they need to sign the sheet first? That's how they're counted, and that, of course that is how they're counted. But they were going back there telling them, and a lot of those people that went home, English was not their first language.
They were just holding us, and they had papers in their hand. The ladies that was holding us outside, she had papers in their hand for us to sign, but they didn't let us sign.
It was the last phone call that I made of the night. It was probably around 9 p.m. And I remember that the person I was calling was named Laura. And instead of someone physically answering the phone, I don't know if they pressed something on the side of their cell phone, but all of a sudden I was listening to a conversation, and initially it sounded like a meeting. There were probably about 3 women and 1 man. I don't know the women's name, but the man was referred to as Martin, and the women were looking at his walls and talking about his wallpaper, and I guess he had just moved in. They were telling him that he really needed to change the wallpaper.
And what state was this?
This was in Texas, in Dallas. That's where we were calling from anyways.
It seemed initially like a training type of a program.
The people were talking about how they were going to be collecting names the following day, asking people when they came in to vote if they were coming back to caucus.
It took on a plotting tone. They were talking about how, again, you know, they would take those names.
They wouldn't have to physically be there, but their votes would be counted in with the caucusing. And if they were not going to be returning to caucus, the names were going to be collected. And they were going to be added to the names of people that were going to go out and caucus that evening.
It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So I asked Gina to go and get one of the other volunteers because I wanted somebody else to hear this. It was unbelievable that this could be happening. So I was still on the phone listening, and of course they kept on about how it was going to go down, that they would call the caucus to order. And I don't know anything, I've never caucused, but that they would call it to order, that they would have, I guess, the people on each side of, I guess Hillary's on one, Obama, they kept, of course, referring to him as Obama on the other. And that's when, of course, then the campaign attorney came into the room where we were at, took the phone, and it was a Hillary campaign phone, and my notes that I had taken with the information that I had written. Of course, it was not very legibly because I was nervous. I couldn't believe, again, I need to read that this could be happening
in America.
In America.
You think these things happen in third world countries.